We know from history that in times past, this is unfortunate, but it does exist. It did exist. I don't believe it exists now, but we had Jewish people coming into a faith and knowledge of Jesus as the Messiah, and under that circumstance, sometimes, not always, but sometimes those Jewish people were asked to perform some action to prove that they had left Judaism behind as the old religion and embraced Christianity as their new religion. For instance, Jewish people were asked to eat a piece of pork or something that would normally be forbidden by Jewish people or unkosher, so not kosher by biblical standards, and thus this was kind of like their litmus test that they were passing to prove to their new Christian community that, hey, I'm one of you now. I'm no longer to be counted as a Jew. Please count me as a Christian. Of course, this doesn't happen in modern Christian conversions for Jewish people anymore. Because we as Christianity have realized the error of that type of test, or whatever you want to call it, the insensitivity of that whole idea. But it's a shame that would even have been allowed to take place in the first place. I could Google search that instance, and maybe we'll talk about it a different day, but not today. Let's keep going in my commentary. In essence, I say this would mean, if this were the case where a Jewish person was being asked or kind of coerced or forced to undergo this type of verification process, whatever. In essence, I say that this would mean the death of living as a religious Jew, right? Am I right? I mean, if you're talking about the lifestyle that Jewish people live, complete with all of its association with things, Torah, Law of Moses, Jewish tradition, synagogue lifestyle, festival attendance, kosher keeping, and things like that. Not to mention all of the outward appearances that make people resemble someone who leads a Jewish lifestyle, such as the wearing of a yarmulke or a kippah, the wearing of tzitzit or tassels, fringes on your garments, for ultra-Orthodox Jews or things like that, the wearing of certain black and white outfits and things like that. So there are noticeable, visible community dress styles and things like that are associated with Jewish lifestyle. Even if those things are rooted in tradition and not necessarily rooted in the text, they're still part of Jewish living and Jewish lifestyle. So if a person were to, say, convert and claim to believe in Jesus and become a Christian, would they have to forego and give up that outward lifestyle? Would they have to change the way they look to other people? Those are some of the questions we're not going to really answer. The purpose of this study is not to answer all of those types of cultural and sociological questions. The purpose of this study is more theological. We're going to examine a passage in the book of Matthew, and we're going to ask questions based on modern interpretations of the passage and see if those interpretations are really in line with perhaps the ancient understanding of the passage itself. Since it's in the Gospels, book of Matthew, it's likely, of course, that we're going to be working from Yeshua's words. So those are some of the issues we're going to be looking at. I continue my commentary. Matt Slick of CARM, which is Christian Apologetics and Resource, the Christian Apologetics and Research Ministry. Yeah, I think that's it. R stands for research. Which in my opinion is a fine Christian apologetics website at carm.org. They define replacement theology thusly. So let's get our running definition of this term, replacement theology, before we go much further in the study. So for those of you who are not familiar, replacement theology, this is Matt Slick. Replacement theology is the teaching that the Christian church has replaced national Israel regarding the plan, purpose, and promises of God. Thus, it's titled Replacement Theology. Now, most Christians would probably not word it in that exact terminology. They wouldn't go around saying, hey, have you heard the news? The Christian church has replaced national Israel in regards to God's plans, purposes, and promises. Okay, that's probably not the way that you're going to hear it spelled out. However, if you have a well-meaning conversation with a well-meaning pastor or Christian, and you listen to their perspective on where does Israel fit in the grand scheme of things, or if you ask the question, who is Israel, who is the church, and what are the differences, then you'll probably hear some sentiments that give you the impression as a listener that replacement theology has influenced their way of thinking, that replacement theology is probably maybe not out and in your face in their theology, in their particular church denomination, but perhaps has some strongholds or footholds in certain pockets of theology within their particular denomination. So that's probably what would really happen if you have this type of conversation.